looks like an adventure to me.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
We have a bear coming at us. He's relaxed, I'm relaxed. Now I gotta be careful.
But an alligator over 2,100 pounds per square inch.
I mean, that's what we're looking for. That 1 wild percent makes it so much different. It's a love story. They're definitely in the area. Just don't feel like getting bitten in the face.
I told you it was pretty wild.
Hola chicos, hola chicas, padres, madres, maestros y maestras del Colegio Nuestra Señora de la Paz de Vierta de San Juan. Hoy estamos hablando con otra parte del planeta. Vamos a ir a Estados Unidos a hablar con un amigo que es nada más y nada menos que C. Wiese, que es el presidente del Explorer Club de Nueva York y además es un gran presentador de un programa de televisión llamado Born to Explore, que yo seguía hace tiempo, así que vamos a empezar a saludarlo. Hi, hello Richard, how are you?
Hola, ¿cómo está?
Bien, bien. Si
Yo
quieres...
necesito práctica. Yo estudio español por 5 años en la escuela, pero no recuerdo mucho.
Pues hablas muy bien, si quieres hablamos en español.
Pues perfecto.
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you for letting us get to know you better.
Oh, you're welcome.
And to know how you have become a great explorer. Thank you very much, Richard.
Oh, thank you very much. Spain actually has a very special place in my heart. As a young boy, it was the first international country that I ever visited.
Ah, yes.
Yes, I went to Madrid in 1966.
Oh my God.
And I even went to a bullfight.
Yes. Do you like Spain in this time?
Well, it's been such a long time. It was exciting because at that point I'd never been on an airplane. My father was an airline pilot, so that allowed my brothers, I have no brothers, my sisters and I to travel around the world. And so I was very lucky at a very young age to start traveling around the world.
Wow. Are you ready for the question?
Yep.
Well, I start. We would like to know how were you as a child and how was your school life? What was the name of your school and where was it located?
Okay, entiendo. So I grew up on Long Island, about a little less than 2 hours from New York City, but where I grew up was on the coast. And so there weren't many people. I grew up near the beach. I was the youngest of 4 children. I had 3 older sisters. And so there weren't many kids where I lived, so I had to entertain myself. And so I would just spend hours in the woods. I would go with my dog down to the beach to collect things. And so, as a student, I was a pretty good student. My favorite subject was science. And I also grew up during a time of the space launches. So the Gemini and Apollo launches, I remember very well. I went to a school called St. James Elementary School on Long Island. And then when I got older, I went to a all-boys Catholic school called St. Anthony's. And I was very competitive in sports. I did American football and I did the decathlon and track and field.
Yeah.
But
soccer, no soccer, only football, American football?
At that time, soccer was not so big in America as it is now. And so, played American football. And I was lucky. I had two parents that cared about me. I had a favorite uncle who was a scientist at MIT
Wow.
who used to share information. And my father was an airline pilot. And so my most fond memories of my father would be he and I standing on our lawn on the grass, looking at the sky, and he knew how to do celestial navigation, navigation by the stars.
Yeah.
And we used to talk about weather patterns that were coming through. And so this was the language that my father and I spoke. Even today, if I call my father, he's in his 90s, we talk about the weather.
Were you as a student, you are a shy student or little active, moved?
You know, I think I was always a pretty good student because I was always very competitive.
Yeah.
It's not that I had a great desire to be a student, but I always thought to myself, I didn't like how it felt or looked to be considered a B student.
Mhm.
So I always wanted to be an A student. Now, there were times that I didn't do as well as other times, you know, and I had some teachers that I liked, some teachers that I didn't like. And but as I mentioned, I was lucky that I had mentors in my life. I had people who had the time to show me things and talk to me about things, and so I was always busy with things. Yeah.
Okay. At the school, did you already know what you wanted to be as an adult or not?
Well, when I was little, I wanted to play professional baseball, like many people my age. It's not unlike people want to be professional soccer players. And for a while, I thought when I was really little, like many young kids who like dinosaurs, I thought, oh, I'd love to be a paleontologist. And then, you know, as I got older, I thought maybe I wanted to be a doctor. And then my father taught me how to fly airplanes, and I thought maybe I wanted to be a pilot. So, you know, I went through thinking I might like to do a lot of things. And even now, I always think what I'm interested in. So I feel like, you know, you never stop dreaming of what you'd like to do or be.
Yes. How was your high school? Was easy or funny or difficult for you or what do you remember?
It was interesting because I went to an all boys Catholic high school,
Ah, yes.
and I was taught by Franciscan brothers.
Mhm.
And for the most part, they were very dedicated teachers. And I even though I'm not religious, I think that I benefited from you know, having the sports there and having teachers who cared. And I think that the only thing, I guess, by the time I finished high school, I was so ready to start dating girls that I couldn't wait to get to university because, you know, at that point I had enough of just guys around. I wanted to start dating. So I was very happy to go to a co-ed university.
And you study in the university, no? What you,
Yes, I went to a school called Brown University.
yeah?
It's part of the Ivy League. There's several schools of the Ivy League, and I was a geology major. And you know, I was an okay student there. I didn't have good study habits from high school. High school was very easy for me, so a lot of the study habits that I would have benefited, I never had. And then, you know, at first it was really hard. In fact, I remember my first biology test, I got an F, and I'd never gotten an F before. And so that was something new to me. And, you know, a lot of things were new. You know, I started dating, I was still doing sports. You know, I think I wish I could do university over.
When you decide to become an explorer?
You know, at first I thought I'd always been involved in exploration
Yeah.
and not even knowing that I was involved in exploration. For example, when I was 11 years old, my father took me to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. And so now, because I have children of my own, I have two 10-year-olds and an 11. And I think, what was my father thinking? 11 seems very young to climb that mountain. But to me, it seemed normal. And so, and then a little later in life, one of my sisters was dating a guy who was a marine biologist. And that relationship didn't last very long, but I stayed friends with him, and he used to take me scuba diving. So I was so thrilled that this guy would take me scuba diving. And, you know, I still talk to this man to this day. He was a good influence on my life.
Always
then,
exploring, no? Always in your life exploring.
Well, he really was an explorer. He created the first artificial reef in the Long Island Sound off of New York, and he asked me to help him. And you know, at the time, I was so thrilled, and I think the lesson that I learned maybe later on life is that adults are very happy to help students. They want to encourage or to have a student who wants to be involved. And a little later on, I heard some very good advice about this from this marine biologist named Sylvia Earle. She used to say people come to her all the time and say, oh, I want to be a marine biologist. I want to be a marine biologist. How can I be like you? And she said, if you hang around the action long enough, you become part of the action. So volunteer to clean boats, volunteer to put equipment away, volunteer to do anything, because what happens is that you become a trusted person in that team. And then all of a sudden they're missing a person. And they say, hey, can you come on this expedition with me? So volunteering has always had good benefits in my life. It seems like anytime I've done volunteer work, something unexpectedly good happened as a result of it.
Yeah. You make a program called Born to Explore, a TV program, no? That I have followed for a long time in Spain. You have traveled many places around the world. Which places on the planet has most impacted you? I would like you to explain it so that my student understand how incredible it is to travel and discover new places.
Yeah, so you know, I've been to a lot of places. I've been to all 7 continents, but there's still a lot of places I haven't been. And so we have 2 sort of principles of Born to Explore, pillars, we like to say. One is cultural understanding. The idea that when I go to Spain, or I go to Uganda, or I go to someplace in the Middle East, that you understand a person by sharing a meal, listening to music together, art. We all speak different languages. There are 6,000 languages spoken on Earth, but there are certain universal languages: food, nature, art, dance, music, all of those things. And I think that for me, as I've gotten older, it's become less about my personal goals, as far as like being the first to the top of a mountain or me planting a flag, but I've so enjoyed meeting people from different countries, and I always feel so much richer by knowing them. And I think that in the world today, cultural understanding is very important.
Yes.
You know, it's good to know what a person in the desert thinks in the Middle East. It's good to know what somebody in Africa. And just because they look different than you, or maybe don't seem as educated, doesn't mean they're stupid, doesn't mean they don't have dreams, it doesn't mean that you can't learn things that make them happy.
Yeah.
And then the other aspect of the show is about nature. It's what we call a stewardship of nature, of showing value in why it's important to have forests and clean water and air and all those other things. So I've been very lucky. We've now filmed over 200 episodes of this show. I'm very proud. I know it's on in Spain.
Yeah.
What's the name in Spain? What does it go by?
It's the same name, Born to Explore.
Okay.
Nacido para explorar, o algo así.
And does it have subtitles, or do they have somebody dubbing it?
Between the 2 voices, one in English, another in Spanish.
Okay, okay. Because usually, if they have a Spanish guy speaking, people always speak with a deeper voice in
Yeah,
Spanish. Yeah.
yes. What place on the planet would you like to visit that you don't know yet?
Well, I'd like to revisit Spain.
Yeah,
I've become familiar with your king. I
yeah,
think he's shown a lot of leadership now in exploration, because I know that you guys have been celebrating Magellan.
yeah,
But I also know that he has real ideas about conservation. I think he's really a man for the 21st century. So
yeah,
I would like to visit Spain again.
yeah.
I think that I would like to go to Greenland. I've never been to Greece. I'd like to go to Mongolia. I'd like
Yeah.
to go to Zimbabwe. I'd like to go to Papua New Guinea. I mean, it's a big world out there.
Yeah, more city, more land, more people around the world.
Right, 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 right.
We need now to explore again.
Yeah, exactly.
What led you to want to be president of the best exploration club in the world, the Explorer Club of New York?
You know, when I first became a member of the Explorers Club, I was so thrilled just to become a member of the club, because really the heroes in my life were there, like Sir Edmund Hillary, and you had the astronauts, all these wonderful people. So the last thing I ever thought is that I'd become president. And it was, at one point I was on the board of directors, and a former president asked me if I'd consider running for president. I was like, wow. And so there I've been elected, and now at this point I'm going into my 7th year of being president. It's longer than any other person in the history of the club. And so it's kind of like being a Roman emperor. Which means it usually doesn't end well. There's somebody who will, assassinate you in the end.
Well, I am a member of Explorer Club, and so
I see your patch.
yeah, yeah. I was lucky to give a conference at New York headquarters
Yep.
about my expedition to Antarctica. It was incredible. More than 100 people were in the room. I can't believe it. Also, can you tell us about Explorer? What does this club of crazy people represent?
Yeah, there are some crazy people there, but the book, the Harry Potter books or movies,
Yeah,
and at Hogwarts, they always talk about magic. And so in the room that you see behind me, I've seen people actually talk about magic, people who've walked in space, have
yeah,
gone to the bottom of the ocean, all sorts of space. So I think the mission of the Explorers Club is to promote science. It's for other people. And I think the world needs science more than ever before. You see, with trying to find cures for things, try to understand people, understand the planet, save the planet.
yeah.
So I think the mission of exploration is more important than ever before.
Yes, I think it's more necessary than the young people know another areas of the earth and the people who was very important in the expedition, like he has Raymond Hillary or Amundsen. What is your favorite explorer?
You know, I've been lucky because I've met some of the greats, like the Jane Goodall, the Neil Armstrongs, the Buzz Aldrin. But Sir Edmund Hillary, to me, was such a magnificent person, because he used his fame instead of living like a rich person, which he could have. He used all his fame and celebrity to help other people and to help people in the Himalayas. And he was a very down-to-earth person too, a lot of admiration. And then, currently our honorary president, which is Bertrand Piccard,
Yeah.
I have such admiration for him. He's such a smart guy, and I think he, I might even consider him the greatest explorer of the 21st century right now.
Yes, So, a great person, I think. Is
Great person.
great person, yes. Where would you like to travel after coronavirus problem ending?
Oh, I'd just like to go to the store without a mask. uh, I think that, for me, personal travel is less important than now travel with my family. I'd like to introduce my family to the world. My wife is a big traveler too. And so I think I'd like to go back on safari with the
Ah.
kids. I'd like to take them to Spain.
Yeah, can.
We were almost
I
there.
invite you. I invite you. Yes, perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'd say Spain. I'd like to come to España.
Eso es, España. Well, I would like you to recommend the two books, one for kids and one for adult. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a guy, an American author named Bill Bryson,
Mhm,
and he wrote a book called A Short History of Everything.
mhm.
And to me, it's a great book because the book explains so many things that you look around on how a fossil's made, all sorts of things. I'd recommend it for kids or adults. A Short History of Everything by Bill Bryson. And I also like the book Endurance, the book about Shackleton.
Yes.
Carolyn Alexander wrote that. And I think that, I like hearing the stories of people who've overcome very difficult things, because I think the lesson I've learned is that that the mark of a really good or great explorer is their ability to adapt to changing environments. And
Yes.
clearly right now we're in an environment that's changed.
Yes.
And so you have to figure ways to adapt and survive and be relevant, keep yourself mentally strong, and not be overcome by circumstances.
It's a real quarantine.
This is, yeah, it's interesting because we're having a lecture by video soon with Kathy Sullivan, Bertram Piccard, and Borg Ausland, the Antarctic explorer, about how people deal with isolation. And I think probably they're going to all tell you the same thing: is you got to keep busy. A mentor of mine, who was a former president of the Explorers Club, Captain Alfred McLaren, he was a nuclear sub-captain, and he said that when you have a crew of young men on your boat, he said he used to give them activities, tasks to do, even though they didn't need to be done, like repaint something or to
Do something.
do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just, boredom is the worst thing. So people need to keep engaged.
Yes.
Find something that interests you. I think you almost need more discipline when you have more time.
Well, that's all, amigo. We finished the interview.
Okay.
Thanks for talking with us about your life, and do see children as exploration is what makes the human being forward and dream of a new challenge. Thank you so much, Richard.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here. It's this is one of the wonderful things about the era we live in, that you're sitting in Spain, I'm sitting in the United States, and we can talk like this.
Perfect.
I never thought this would be possible when I was a boy. So I wonder what the future will be like.
Thank you so much. Muchas gracias. Te espero en España.
Okay, de nada. Okay. Adios.
Adiós.